Has anyone ever left you something in their will that you didn't want? Something you knew deep down you should refuse? Something that felt wrong from the moment you heard about it? 3 weeks ago, my grandmother died. I hadn't seen her in 15 years, not since I was 10. Not since what happened with that collection of hers. The collection my parents never talked about except in whispers when they thought I couldn't hear. When I was a kid, my parents wouldn't let me visit her alone. They never explained why. All they said was Grandma Helen wasn't well, that she had ideas, that sometimes she would say things that weren't appropriate. I didn't understand then what they meant. I just knew that visits to Grandma's house were rare and always tense, with my parents watching me like hawks the entire time. I do now. God help me, I understand everything now. The day of the funeral was strange. No one cried, not my parents, not my aunts or uncles, no one. They all just seemed relieved, like a burden had been lifted. I barely remembered her face, but I went anyway. Family obligation, I guess. I noticed how everyone avoided looking at the casket, how the priest seemed to rush through the service, his eyes darting nervously to the closed coffin every few seconds. The lawyer called me 2 days after the funeral, said Grandma had left me something specific in her will. Just me, not my parents or my brother, not my cousins who had visited her more often. Just me. The one granddaughter who hadn't seen her since I was a child. My mother tried to convince me to refuse the inheritance, whatever it was. Said it wasn't worth it. That Grandma's gifts always came with strings attached. I should have listened. The package arrived yesterday, a plain brown box about the size of a shoebox, wrapped in so much tape it took me 10 minutes to get through it all. My name was written on it in shaky handwriting. Not typed, actually handwritten, with the words, personal and confidential, must be delivered to addressee only underneath. There was a letter with it, sealed with actual wax like something from another century. Dark red wax with an impression I couldn't quite make out. The letter inside smelled musty, like it had been written years ago. It said, "My dearest granddaughter, you were always the special one, the one who could see. Remember when you visited and you told me you'd seen Victoria move? How her eyes followed you around the room? How she whispered to you at night? Your parents thought you were making up stories, but I knew better. Victoria chose you then. And now that I'm gone, she needs a new home, a new friend. She doesn't like being alone. She gets angry when she's alone. Don't disappoint her. For your own sake, don't disappoint her." My hands were shaking so badly I could barely finish reading, because I did remember Victoria, the porcelain doll in the blue Victorian dress who sat on my grandmother's dresser, the one with the cold blue eyes that I swore, turned to watch me wherever I went in that room. The one my parents said was just my imagination when I screamed in the middle of the night that she was standing at the foot of the guest bed, staring at me. The real reason we never went back. I didn't want to open the box. Every instinct told me to throw it away, to burn it, to drive it to the middle of nowhere and bury it where no one would ever find it. But something made me do it anyway. My fingers moved against my will, peeling back the flaps of the cardboard. Inside was just tissue paper. Yellowed, ancient tissue paper that crumbled at my touch. She wasn't there. The box was empty, except for a small card resting at the bottom. It read, "She doesn't like boxes. Look behind you." My blood turned to ice. I felt something cold brush against the back of my neck. Cold, like porcelain. I spun around, heart pounding, but nothing was there. Just the empty living room of my apartment. But when I turned back to the box, Victoria sat on my desk, smiling, her glass eyes reflecting light that wasn't in the room. Her porcelain hands folded primly in her lap, her blue dress spread perfectly around her like she'd been posed by an invisible hand. I stumbled backward, knocking over my chair. This wasn't possible. I'd been alone in my apartment. The doors were locked, the windows closed. There was no way anyone could have placed her there in the seconds I'd turned away. I bolted out of my apartment. I spent the night at a hotel using the emergency credit card I keep hidden in my car. Told myself I was being ridiculous. That lack of sleep and grief were making me hallucinate. It was just a doll, just porcelain and cloth and glass, nothing more. At 1:15 a.m., the hotel phone rang. I know the exact time because I'd been staring at the digital clock, unable to sleep, watching each minute tick by. "Hello," I said, but there was only static. Then, faintly, a child's voice singing a lullaby I half remembered from my own childhood. A song my grandmother used to sing. I hung up, hands trembling. 2 minutes later, my cell phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from my own number. "I don't like this place, take me home." Another buzz, another text. "You promised you'd take care of me." I never made any such promise. I threw the phone across the room and watched it shatter against the wall. I didn't go back to my apartment. I called my mother instead from the hotel room phone, told her everything. There was a long silence on the other end. "Your grandmother had schizophrenia," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. She believed those dolls contained the souls of dead children, that they spoke to her, that they needed things from her. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" I demanded. Another long pause. "Because you used to tell us the same things," she said. "When you were little, that your toys talked to you, that they had demands. That's why we stopped visiting. The last time we were there, your grandmother told us Victoria had chosen you, that you were going to be her vessel when you turned 25, that you'd continue her work." The phone nearly slipped from my grasp. "What work? What are you talking about?" "I don't know," my mother said. "We never asked. We just kept you away from her. We hoped that it would be enough." I checked the calendar on the hotel wall. My 25th birthday is in 6 days. I couldn't stay at the hotel forever. Eventually, I went back to my apartment with my roommate, Jen. Safety in numbers, right? The building seemed normal. No mysterious figures in the hallways, no creepy music playing from hidden speakers. Jen said I was overreacting, that someone was playing a sick joke, that my grandmother had probably hired someone to mess with me after her death. The apartment was exactly as I'd left it, the chair still knocked over from when I'd fled. But Victoria wasn't on my desk anymore. "See?" Jen said, squeezing my arm reassuringly. "Someone just broke in and took it. Probably the same person who's been messing with you. Mystery solved." I wanted to believe her, desperately. Then she went to use the bathroom. She started screaming 30 seconds later. I ran to the door, calling her name, but it was locked from the inside. The screaming stopped abruptly, cut off mid-cry. Then silence. "Jen, are you okay?" I yelled, pounding on the door. "Open the door." The lock clicked. The door swung open slowly. She was standing there, staring at the mirror, completely silent. When she turned around, her eyes were wrong, glass-like, empty. Her face was slack, expressionless, but her lips were curved into a smile no human mouth should make. "Victoria doesn't like her," she said, but it wasn't her voice. It was high-pitched, like a child's. "Victoria only likes you. Victoria only wants you." Before I could react, she walked past me, her movements stiff and unnatural, like a marionette pulled by invisible strings. I called after her, tried to grab her arm, but she shook me off with inhuman strength. She walked out of my apartment, down the stairs, and directly into traffic without stopping, without looking. I can still hear the screech of tires, the sickening thud, the screams of pedestrians. The police came, asked questions, looked at me with suspicion when I tried to explain what happened. They searched my apartment, every inch of it. They didn't find Victoria. They didn't find anything unusual. They think I'm crazy, that I had some kind of psychological break, that I somehow convinced my friend to do what she did. They're keeping me under observation, they said. They'd be watching me closely. They didn't believe me about the doll. But when they left, I found something on my pillow. A small porcelain hand, broken off at the wrist. Perfect in every detail. Fingers curled slightly, like it was reaching for something. Or someone. And next to it, a note written in what looked like crayon. "Fixing me is our first game." I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. I started researching my grandmother online, trying to understand what was happening. I found old newspaper articles about her from before she became a recluse. She had been a nurse at a children's home in the 1960s, a place for orphaned girls. Then I found something else, a small article, barely a paragraph, about a fire at that same children's home. 8 children died, all girls, all between ages 5 and 10. The fire was ruled an accident, faulty wiring. But one line in the article stood out. Helen Roberts, night nurse on duty, claimed the children were already gone before the fire started. She was placed on medical leave pending psychological evaluation. My grandmother. She started her doll collection the week after the fire. 1 doll for each girl. I found the receipts in her financial records, which the lawyer had sent along with other documents. Custom porcelain dolls, made to order with very specific descriptions. My mother told me something else, too. Something she'd never mentioned before. Something that made everything horribly, sickeningly clear. I had a twin sister who died when we were 3. A sudden illness that took her in just days. Victoria had been a gift from our grandmother, meant for both of us. I remembered her then. Not her face, we were too young, but the feeling of never being alone, of always having someone there. And after she died, I remembered crying for Victoria. But my parents said the doll had been buried with my sister. Yet, somehow, Victoria had returned to my grandmother. The next morning, I found a porcelain foot under my bed. Perfect and white and cold. The day after, her other hand was in my shoe when I tried to put it on. Then her torso appeared in my refrigerator, nestled between the milk and orange juice like it belonged there. It's like she's making me reassemble her. Piece by piece. Only her head is missing. I've tried to destroy the parts I've found. I smashed the hands with a hammer, but when I woke up the next day, they were whole again, arranged carefully on my nightstand. I tried to flush the foot down the toilet, but it reappeared in my shower, gleaming wet and undamaged. Last night, I dreamed I was in a burning building, the air thick with smoke, wood cracking and splintering around me. Children were screaming, but I couldn't see them through the smoke. Then a small hand took mine, cold, hard. I looked down. A little girl held my hand. She looked exactly like me, like old photos of me as a child, but her face was cracking open like porcelain breaking in heat. Inside was just darkness, void. "You need to find my head," she said, her voice echoing as if from far away. "Before your birthday, or I'll have to take yours instead." That was the promise. I woke up gasping for air, the smell of smoke lingering in my nostrils. There were blisters on my arms, like burns. Fresh, painful. My sheets were singed in places. "My birthday is tomorrow. I've searched everywhere for Victoria's head. It's not in my apartment, not at my office, not in my car. I've looked in every drawer, every cabinet, under every piece of furniture. Nothing. Then last night, as I was washing my face, staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, haggard and exhausted, I remembered something my grandmother wrote in journals I found among her papers. Dolls need eyes to see, a mouth to speak, and a head to think. But they don't always need their own. I looked closer at my reflection, at the dark circles under my eyes, at my pale skin, and I noticed something strange, a thin line running from my temple down to my jaw. Not a cut, not a scratch, a seam. I touched it. It felt different. Hard, cold. I can feel something beneath my skin, something that shouldn't be there, something hard, smooth, cold, like porcelain. I think I'm Victoria's missing piece, or she's mine. The twin I lost, the sister who died. She never left me. She's been waiting, all this time. I'm making this video as a warning. I don't know who will find it, maybe the police, maybe some stranger on the internet. But if someone leaves you a doll in their will, burn it. Don't even open the box. Don't read the letter. Don't look at it. Because once they choose you, you're already part of their collection. My birthday is in 1 hour. The seam around my face is more visible now. I can feel it when I speak, when I blink. The skin pulling apart slightly, revealing something white underneath. I don't think I'll be alone much longer. I don't think I've ever really been alone. Wait, do you hear that? That singing? It's her lullaby. The one she used to sing to me when we were little. The one I'd forgotten until now. They're coming for me. Victoria, my sister, the other children, all of them. And now they've seen you too. Through my eyes, through this video. They know your face now. Check your mail tomorrow, or the next day, or the day after. Someone will be looking for a new home, and they never, ever take no for an answer.